and I shared the theory of when you teach stuff, and we sort of pay attention to crossovers. But Darryl, at that time, he was 25, and he used the term linear crossovers.
Yep.
So if you watch an NHL game,
it's all over the place.
That ratio is the case, and I've always been fixated on the forward stride and glide, and
Yep.
to the point of being anal about it. But now I would change my approach. So, and Kim and I had a good talk about it yesterday. So, Al, I'm curious about it. Have you given any thought to that?
You're on mute, Al.
Is your mic off, Al?
Al, yeah, your mic's off, Al, unless you can't hear.
Well, he's getting organized. We started using that linear crossover stuff this year because I think it's then easier to teach the kids to not just go straight at a defenseman. And you give them a reason why. You can show that the defenseman has to constantly readjust because you're going left, you're going right, you're going left, and you're striding. And it makes it a lot harder, for defensemen to play against a skater that's doing that linear crossover stuff. We started using it last year, and but I'm doing evaluations right now, high performance 14s and 15-year-olds. Oh my gosh, 90% of them can't skate worth a damn. And these are the best kids that we've got in our district, not at the state level. But it's interesting. I've always been, as a high school coach, been amazed at how kids get to 16 or 17 and have such poor skating skills after playing hockey for 10 or 11 years.
Well, Hal, before
I think my mic is on there now.
Okay, go ahead.
You're live, Al.
I'm live, yeah. There's just a big lag. I think that's my laptop. But so we do focus a lot on the crossovers with the kids from a fairly young age. I would say we come at it from both directions. So within our association, we've got two skill partners with two really different approaches to skating. So one guy we use is he's a Laura Stam system certified instructor, right? He's really good. Travels all over the country, but his focus is on stride development, kind of like what you're talking about, Wally, and it's very similar to the way that I was taught, going back to Andrews. Like it's really similar actually. So I haven't had time the last 2 years here, but I used to jump on with them for those sessions, and it was very, very similar to what we used to do. And then we've also partnered with Power Edge Pro. So myself and some of the other guys, when we do the Power Edge Pro sessions, those are really focused on crossovers, as well, like open hip, turns, things like that. So there's it's more of that new style skating stuff that you're talking about. Very big emphasis on the linear crossover. And then we've carried that through in practice now. Once the kids got a little bit of the base under them, they go to that Laura Stam certified guy on Sundays. And then with our team practices, we focus more on the crossovers and edge work side of it. So I do see it in the games. Like when I look at the kids that really have done a lot of that program starting when they were pretty young, like my son is one of them. When he gets the puck, like he never skates in a straight line, or very rarely. He's crossing over and he's going different directions, and he's very shifty. Now, I will say that if he goes to one of those power skating sessions on Sunday nights, I'll see it and I can tell in the game, the next game that we play. Like the other day, they were doing something about pushing the puck ahead with one hand and, taking long strides. And I had literally never seen him do that before, ever, because I've deliberately kept him away from doing that because he can handle the puck with his head up, from the time he was about 7. So I saw that come out the other day. Normally he's crossing over and handling the puck, and I kind of made a mental note to make sure that we get that taken out of our skating curriculum. But I definitely see it. Like when I look at the kids that have gone through that program, they skate differently than the kids who are even playing a higher level right now that skate very north-south. And I wonder what's going to happen, like as they get into Pee Wee, some of these kids that are maybe a little bit smaller have spent a little bit more time working on things like their crossovers and tight space work, how they're going to be able to compete against some of those kids who right now are the better players, because I think they're going to pass them very quickly.
Kim?
Yeah, Wally, just to follow up, because I kind of cut our discussion off there yesterday because Barb and I were heading out for a walk. Wally and I were talking about this yesterday, and I definitely agree that there's some tremendous value in learning the linear crossover. And I definitely agree as well that's probably been neglected sort of in a teaching progression of skating. But I would stop short for sure of saying to somebody, don't ever forward stride, because the forward stride is a speed thing, mainly without the puck. Like if you could do, easily do a study. So start on the goal line, Wally, you're going to linear crossover all the way to the red line. And Al, you're going to forward stride all the way to the red line. And if the players are kind of equal skaters generally, the forward stride person is going to get there first. It's a speed thing. It's a without the puck thing. It's not, the linear crossover is much more useful infinitely more useful in a deceptive mode when you've got the puck and you're attacking a D, like Hal was saying. And so they're two different skills. They're both have a good application in the game. So as I always come back to, learn both, and then you can deploy them when you feel you need or want to during the game. So it's like everything. It's not an absolute, never do this, always do that. It's, learn all the skills you can learn, and then you're the best workman. You've got all the tools. You can do anything.
Now, I agree and disagree because my point isn't all or none. Obviously, I've been a stride guy first to the point of being wrong. In all my scouting of female athletes for the national team, like Hal said, they can't skate. They pound the ice. They master inside edges, but they pound the ice. They don't push to the side. They don't get the skate under the center of gravity to create force. So biomechanically, the crossover forces you to go past the center of gravity and master that outside edge. And it leads to better striding. So, Kim, you've got your hand up. I'm just saying that I would start focusing 80% of the time on if you're doing skating with a puck, particularly crossing over with the puck. But to do that, you can practice without a puck, doing linear crossovers, 2 one way, 1 one way, the other way, but you just vary the numbers. But Kim, we had a good talk about this yesterday, and I'm not going to work with kids anymore, but I'm working with coaches, and I would advocate do more crossovers. They want their kids to skate better, do more crossovers, particularly with the puck, because the game really, the only time it's really useful is in back check. But very rarely will you get a breakaway stride. You do. So the percentage of time the game is played within 15 feet, it just far exceeds that. So the top line players on Darryl's research are skating that way. I don't know if they would win races to the far blue, but they win them all in the O zone with the puck, and without it, they get to it. So, Kim, go ahead. I'm going to let you take over because we talked at length about this, and you've got different ways of teaching it. But you know what? You've watched Darryl's recent videos and understand the concept of his approach, and it's almost a shocking thing to do. It is. outside the comfort zone of what we've always done. So go ahead, Kim.
Thanks, Wally. Yeah, I think I would agree with you that it's an important thing to teach. It's something I teach at every camp I do. I think it's the outside edge work is the real value in it, especially for the younger players, I think. So like you said, there's that mastery of the inside edge. So when Molly and I were talking about yesterday, we were talking about tight turns. And I find tight turns maddening because most girls I work with just turn with the outside foot inside edge. Like they might as well just lift up their inside foot. Like it serves no purpose. And so, if you're a skills person, you've seen the evolution of like a jab step or a punch turn or whatever. And it's interesting to me because I just think, well, that's a tight turn. Like you're just using the outside edge a little more or a little less, depending on whether you want to jab it or punch it or whatever kind of vernacular you want to use. But, I think it's fundamentals versus skills that separate. And I think that for me, most of the players I work with who aren't sort of learned to skaters are fine at forward stride. Can we make it better? Sure. Can we make them infinitely better and separate them from the competition by teaching them linear crossovers? Absolutely. And it is immediately apparent in games when they're able to do it. And I see an instant transfer. I have sort of like a 50-minute progression I take players with or through. And I wanted to see if I could share my screen. You guys can let me know if it doesn't work. We'll see if it does or not. I'm going to share something from Instagram, which I'm sure is not like, I don't know. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay, so this is from
Can
last.
you make it bigger, Kim?
I
Whole
probably
screen?
can if I was smart enough. I only went to Dartmouth, so I'm not sure.
Well, I went to Medina High
I'm
School.
glad you said it, Kim.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Maybe Sammy can help us. She's smarter than all of us. I don't know if I can make it better, Wally, but can you guys see it?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a junior player. I would say she is a below average skater or was a below average skater. So this would be a pretty high level progression. This would be sort of like the end of the hour. Whatever she's doing around the circle, don't worry about it. So she's crossing over and through. We can debate the use of the sticks. It mostly scares the girls, so it makes me happy that they have to do something outside their comfort zone. So I just want to use this as an example. So this is her having done it probably 4 or 5 times over the summer. I'll show you another player. This would be, she's U13 AA. She'd be probably top 3 in her age group in the province. So you can see she's a lot smoother at it.
Kim, can I make a point looking at the picture?
Yeah.
And I think it's an important point related to how you teach it. That second girl, I can't tell because I don't see the side view. You drive your shoulders forward when you cross over.
Mhm.
And it takes that center of gravity in the direction you want to go. The first girl, obviously, she didn't turn her shoulders as she crossed over and under. And that's a significant biomechanical part of teaching linear crossovers. I just wanted to share it because I did it with the pros in the conditioning camp years ago. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think
Kim,
it's
hey, Kim, sorry. Maybe close your chat window. It might make the video bigger. Because we can see your chat window.
okay. Well, I tried to do that, but we'll see. Anyways,
It's because she's on Instagram. You can see her chat window. That
okay.
just is Instagram. No.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Engineer. Thank you.
thanks, Sammy. I know I tried to pull all these clips this morning, but motherhood. So yeah, this player is an elite skater, like she is and has been a long time, right? So, and the other player is, like I said, like below average, or she was below average. I wanted to show just a contrast. Here's the same player, and she still needs to turn her shoulders, but you can see how much that outside edge work has improved. That's the same player who was doing it in the first clip. So just her ability to land on that edge and get those feet moving. It's the exact same drill. But it's, and I had a clip actually of this same player doing it in a junior game against Durham, who's probably top 3 in the province. And she like breaks the girl's ankles, crosses one way, goes the other way, and the girl falls over and like rolls down the ice. So like I said, this is a player who you know, even before this clip, like you might not have taken her on a junior team because she was such a weak skater. And now I'm watching her in junior games, like manipulating skaters and making, you know, some of the best D in the province fall over. And it's simply repetition of a skill. And I think if she can do it at that level, then we can probably all do it a little bit better at a younger level. But it's interesting. It's the outside edge that really is the separator. I mean, if you really look at it, if you can't manipulate your outside edge, you can't do a linear crossover, you can't tight turn properly, you can't stop properly or quickly. So I think that's, you know, how you emphasize that is the real kicker in every skill, every skating skill you're doing. You know, I think that doesn't get emphasized enough, and it's too much of the inside edge emphasis. So I wonder if that like could just simplify it even more than linear crossovers per se, or, you know, jab steps or whatever terms people want to use.
Go ahead, Hal.
Yeah, you know, we to help our kids learn that outside edge, get them comfortable on it. We use a drill called Russian chops. So they're skating backwards and they raise up their leg and come across, set it down. So you can do it like this, because they have to come down on their outside edge, and eventually we get them to where they're on their left leg, the right leg comes up shoulder height and then comes across, and they put it down. We started that this year with these are 13, 14-year-old girls. Most of them couldn't do it. And our exit interviews at the end of the season, they all commented about how great that was, because they got so much better at doing it over the course of the year. And so again, it's about, to your point, Kim, about getting them used to being on that outside edge and then transferring their weight and going somewhere else. And so, and we then transferred it into the linear skating drills also. So I loved your videos. Those were great, Kim. That's good stuff.
Yeah, and Hal, I think I'm visualizing exactly what you're talking about, and it is a very useful, you know, skating drill to improve the outside edges. There's some great video on YouTube, PK Subban doing that drill, but then he calls it scissoring, and there's a great video of him doing it really, really short and quick. Like just his feet just going bing, 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 but in the same motion. So you go from the long, controlled outside edges to shorter, faster, to really quick, repetitive. It's a really good little progression.
I'll look that up. That's great. Great information.
Kim, go ahead.
You're muted, Kim. Yeah.
Sorry. Can you guys see the share?
Yeah.
This would be a progression.
Yeah, that's Darryl's. Darryl's. Yeah.
That's where I start, but slowly. And then to your point, Hal, if they can do that, and I make them take 3 seconds to bring their knee over the top. So it's 1, 2. So they're hanging out on that outside. And I've got 7-year-olds doing that. Yeah. I've got actually my 5-year-old doing that. Like if they can do that and have that level of control, then, you know, doing it while they're moving is actually easier in a lot of ways. So that's where we start. We start marching over the blue line onto the outside edge. And I haven't had a single kid who can't get it. Like they don't look majestic, right? But they can get it within minutes, right? And that's the foundation. And to your point, Hal, like I would start there with my junior and university players. And it's shocking how many of them can't do the 3-second hold.
Right.
Without falling over or losing their balance. But if I threw them in that drill that I did later on, that I was showing you with the kid who was, you know, improved her skating so much, they could probably do that drill, but they wouldn't be using their outside edge effectively.
Right.
So that, you know, that's a good start. And I like starting points that you could take anyone to, and it would be a challenge, right? And that you can, you know, like, so that even that elite kid, she's actually the one in the front of that video too. That's her again, the elite Pee Wee AAA kid or AA kid.
Mhm.
You know, so she can do
Are
that
they
in 3 seconds.
standing still, Kim?
Sorry, yes, they're standing
They're
still.
standing still. They're not moving forwards or backwards.
No, and I think it's better.
I
I
like
mean,
it
you can have everyone doing it
at the same time.
at the same time, but it also like is more control,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Especially 3-second hold while you're stationary on that outside edge. You can't use any other part of your body to balance is quite hard. So that's been a really successful starting point for us to use in that progression, and then it's pretty easy to take it anywhere from there.
Sure. That's awesome.
I think, go ahead, Al. If your hand's still up, or is it an old one?
Yeah, I was gonna try and share the screen here too as like a next step onto that one. But give me 1 second here to see if I can. I don't know if I can actually figure out how to do that. But I think there's a couple elements to it, right? Like there's the skating side of it, and obviously they're building that linear cross over the outside edge and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's also, like, if you're doing that, you should be doing it with the puck the puck on your stick, right? So the other side to that one is to really focus in on getting these kids from a really young age to be able to handle the puck with their head up. And there's so much right now, especially on, like, if you go on Instagram, which there's a lot of, sorry, there's some sharing stuff coming up. My computer has a big lag, but there's so much right now where people are looking, like, they got the kids looking down at the ice, right? They get pucks on the ice, they get stuff where they're trying to work on their hands, right? When really it's about being able to manipulate the puck with your head up and to be able to use those crossovers, and obviously fakes and things like that. But that's where we kind of spend our time too. If we're not working on crossovers or that type of area, it's on what do you do with the kids so that it reinforces them to be able to move around with their head up with the puck. Now, Kim, would you agree with that, Kim, or do you how do you kind of weave that together?
Let's show more drills. I didn't know this was a skill drill session. I'm excited. I would have prepared more. I have like at least 3,000 videos I could show you guys.
Oh, I wish I was a little better with my computer and the share thing here, because I got.
Let's see what we can do here. All right, so this would be a progression. Turn the volume off because I'm probably yelling at someone. So just to your point, head up. We would do this across the blue line with no puck first. And they'd pick up a puck at the far blue or the far side and go in and shoot. So again, pretty good skater here. They're not going full speed yet, but the simple way to start it. Let's see if we can get, sorry, I might have to switch over here. Let's see if we can get this. So now you're adding token pressure. So there's that same kid from the summer. He's gotten a lot better at it. So it's not super smooth, right? So now she's trying to understand how she could use that crossover to manipulate the defender. And we would show them, right? Like, when I demo it, I'm showing them how they're trying to get this defender to turn her feet or reach with her stick by using that move, right? So again, this is just kind of where we start before we would go over and through the sticks. And then eventually we would do it as a one-on-one where they're trying to use it with like stick flip, that sort of thing. So that's part of the full like hour-long progression that would come before the through the stick version. But we add this as soon as I've done the over this line walking, I immediately show them this where I'm this defender and I have one of my more experienced kids doing it, and I'm showing them how they can manipulate my positioning using that crossover. So that's how kind of we get it there to that point. And then again, for the more advanced kids, you're doing the half crossover where you fake one way, like the Barzal stuff. But again, only my junior, my university, or my really great skaters can do that. But you get a lot of bang from your buck just going, getting to the drills I showed you earlier on.
Kim, I want to tell you how far you've taken this. It's just impressive. Back in our day, Tim, when Dave King created a deking progression. It was totally your linear skating. And it was great at the time, but that's the way we were brought up, teaching drive skating. You might fake inside and go right and drive skate.
That's
And,
the way the game was, linear.
but with the linear crossover now, Dave's progression, I think it's a good place to start, but it's the same thing as what you've done. You basically attack a stationary coach and you deke outside of the range of the poke check, wide lateral move, and then accelerate after the deke. And he would do that slow and deliberately with the coach stick extended. And then they would go one-on-one with players half speed. And but all we were taught, and I was taught, was basically the forward stride with that fake, which meant an inside fake, drive off the inside edge and go wide outside and drive skate wide. So this really shows you, I think it's a perfect example what you're doing there of taking the crossover, the linear crossover, incorporating it, as Hal said, into getting the defenseman to cross his feet and lose his gap, his horizontal gap. And boy, it really is the way the game is now. So thanks very much, Kim.
My pleasure, Wally. I'm going to share one more because I want to share an observation. I used to say to all my players, like this is a kind of Jesus move, right? It's Connor McDavid special. But now we have clips of the best women in the world doing it. So that's what we're showing now instead, because that's better for my audience. Let's see. I think I have Sarah Nurse here doing it. And it might be super slow. So I apologize. But, here we go. And she sure makes that player look bad on that linear crossover. Not the prettiest goal in the universe. But here it is. It's pretty good example to show for the girls, right? So this would be, like you can see here, just the amount of crossing she's doing. And I'm going to guess Sarah and a lot of these players wouldn't have done this 3 years ago. They would not have used that skill. So it's nice now to be able to have the videos of the women doing it. And I did during the Olympics sort of make a mental note of how often that happened and how I don't think I saw it much at the last Olympics, if at all. So it's a cool progression to see, whereas, McDavid, Barzal, those guys have been doing it for a little bit longer. So it's neat to see the transfer over to our game.
Hal, did you have your hands up? Hal, I think, okay.
Are you talking to me? I guess I did. I can't remember what it was about, but those are great videos, Kim. That's really good stuff. And so I'll let it go at that. I can't remember what I was going to say. Sorry. I'll put my hand down again.
Okay.
About how to do it.
Darryl's going to come on down the road and sort of tell the story of why he did it. And I know, Tim, you don't like saying never, 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 but I think when it comes to backward skating, I never let them. I teach by never letting them cross over backwards. So, Kim, I don't know if you remember, but this was a national team drill we did with Dave King and the national team, playing one-on-ones, but learning to stride and gap control. And I think if everybody here could visualize it, it's something you could do, but with linear crossovers, it teaches the importance of striding only to change your lane vertically, as opposed to cross over to change your lane. But we would put the defenseman on the dot and the forward with their skates on the goal line on the boards, and it's a rush race. And the D could only cross over once each way, and they had to stride only as soon as possible. They had to play the rush striding. And they really had always crossed over, so they had a pretty good start from the crossover. But they had to learn to stride backwards, maintain the middle of the ice, and at least let the shot go from the middle of the ice. So the rule that Darryl gave his daughter was, growing up, was, I only want you to cross over. It was because he's thinking of where she's going to be skating the game down the road. And I just look at her forward skating, and her edge work is pretty phenomenal. So, but that backward race, Tim, we started you guys as pros on the dot. And with the national team, we had to put people at the top of the circle because they couldn't skate backwards. But eventually, we did this drill weekly or a couple of times a week with the national team. The defender could stand on the bottom of the circle forward on the goal line, and they never got beat. So that sort of validated the importance of what you're doing, Kim, with the progressive teaching of those skills, forward skating with a puck. It's just amazing. Good job. Tim, go ahead.
Well, just to be clear, like I have absolutely no problem doing a drill like you've described, and you tell the players you're not allowed to cross over, whether it's you're working on your forward linear crossovers and you don't ever want them to stride. I have no problem doing an isolated drill like that to help learn the skill. But I think it's a real mistake to tell somebody going into a game, never do this, because that's not the game. There's all kinds of applications in the game for backwards crossovers. I don't disagree. And I fully agree that a backward stride is a really efficient way to play a one-on-one, but I would never tell anybody never cross over, because that's not the game. The game is more fluid than that. It's more read and react than that. And you can't always, anyway, so just to be clear, like in a teaching.
You don't have to explain it, Kim. I understand. I'm not
explaining to you. I'm explaining to everybody listening, just to be clear.
I think we know that. And hell, I think you appreciate that. The deliberate practice is to master it, but in the game, you make decisions and you have to cross over backwards at times. But when you do that more often than not in situations and get beat, it's a case of muscle memory and comfort with executing the skills that way. Kim, do you have anything else add on that?
Jordan's got his hand up, Wally.
Okay, Jordan, you're on the bus, Jordan?
You're muted too. Hey, there you go.
Yep. Yeah, Wally, I'm on the bus, so sorry if the background noise is starting to get too much. They're waking up now, getting ready for the first game. So
at least you're not under the bus, Jordan.
Yeah, that'll be on the way back if we don't pull this tournament out. Just going to talk about the progressions, Wally, that you were talking about, that race drill. I've used that several years, and always at the start of the year, the D hate being told that all that they can do is stride and starting at the dot piece. But usually midway through, they look forward to it because they're feeling more confident in being able to match. And near the end of the year, they challenge themselves to get down to the bottom of the circle, farther lower than the dot, and striding with them. But one of the things that I changed up this year with it, Wally, was actually with Darryl's surf angle pieces. And we've also added in a different race, which is having the forward start in the corner the same as the previous one, but having the D start up on the blue line. and the goal is to surf that forward off the puck by the tops of the circles. So you're denying zone exit, and it's been really good seeing the kids put a couple of different things into the repertoire in defending both blue lines in that surf angle, as well as the striding piece if players coming out with some speed. So, but I will mute myself and continue to listen here. We've got about 15-20 minutes to the ring.
Kim, go ahead.
I got more stuff. Wally, I think I have the drill you're talking about, or a version of it. So let's see what we got. Okay, this is 2 university players. Sorry, my screen share is not big. So the defender is a defenseman. Actually, she's a forward. She plays at Williams. She's a very good skater. This one plays at St. Thomas. I don't know about the crossed feet. She's a funny one. Anyways, they just wanted to challenge themselves, but we would manipulate the body position. And I would also have, the forward do the defense. And I think that's a really important thing at younger ages. Actually, I do it all the way up in minor hockey. The forwards would do the defense part and the Ds would do the forward part. But I love what Jordan said, because I have a team where I don't let them skate backwards to defend. It's a U15B team, and they're so big and aggressive, and they're fast. And I just tell them to just angle and angle, and all we work on is angling. And they're not great backward skaters, but I just tell them not to ever backward skate, and they win a ton of hockey games that way. I was going to show one more of the linear crossovers because I found a little cute kid doing it. So it just gives you an idea here of manipulating. And I know Al shared some videos. I'm pretty sure this kid's 7. But it's the same kind of race. I had to put the defender pretty far back. You can see she's not as good of a skater. But that's pretty good. I mean, we lost the puck, so there's that. At least she fought back for it. That's pretty good for a girl. Most of them just roll over and die when that happens. They just go, oh, I lost the puck. The whole thing must be done now. But this is pretty, I would say, pretty decent. She's an A player, which is, I think, the highest they have at that age group. But pretty good use of it. And, that would be a skill that, she might have done a couple times before. So taking that same thing and just manipulating this distance. Obviously, if this player was a better skater, we might push her further down towards the edge of the circle here.
Kim, she's driving her shoulders forward really well.
Yeah. This one's she's done a lot of extra skill work. So yeah, just a way to combine the 2 skills together, right? So we start to see if you make that defender skate straight back with stride, then you can see how well those linear crossovers work. So often in a 3-hour camp, I would combine linear crossovers and backward skating in the same camp. First hour would be like backward skating. Second hour would be linear crossovers. And then we play one-on-ones in the 3rd hour. And we try to use both of those skills and see how effective we can be. So it's a bit of the art of it. And this has all really evolved for me, I would say, in the last 2 years as I had more time now that I'm not bench coaching. So this is a product of that and not having to travel all over the province coaching a team anymore. So there you go.
The point I wanted to make on those clips, Tim, there's the drill, and they'll learn by trial and error to linear crossover properly, and they'll learn to stride backwards properly and maintain a good gap and a good angle. But in the teaching point of the forward crossover, I think that has to be made at some point and deliberately practiced before they do the drill. And then with the defenseman, your university defenseman skating backwards, I'm just saying teaching points that we gave Tim when he was playing was sit tall, ride a horse, pull your heels straight back. That was in backward racing. So the visual imagery, like Al Ramsey's forecheck, dog, fox, eagles, the visual imagery of that tactical skill. It resonated with me, and I think it was a simple way to get across a biomechanical, efficient idea that would contribute to it. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I love the drills. I can't believe the kids that young being able to do it. Kudos to you. Well done.
Well, the big thing, Wally, is like a lot of these players have never been exposed to any of this stuff. It's really interesting in the female game. If you build these fundamental building blocks, they'll use it right away because they're coach pleasers. They're not going to leave the session being like, that was crap. I'm going to go. Like they apply it almost immediately. And if you position as tools in their toolbox, where I really see the real buy-in is the physicality stuff, the initiating contact, the drive skating through the stick, shin pad to stick, heel to heel through the stick. I mean, once they get it, they put it into practice right away, and they can, their coaches are like, they are like a different person. So, because in the female game, the ability to initiate contact, but also the ability to defend in close quarters when someone is initiating contact, it's way behind. Way behind where it needs to be. I don't know about, Tim would probably be able to speak more intelligently about like at the Olympic level, how good they are at it. But in the minor hockey level, it's no one touches anyone. They just all accept the outside and skate into the corner. So if you do have some confidence with it, that is really the skill right now that I'm seeing is separating players the most, and maybe doesn't require as much high level skating. Like it can, they can get there a little more quickly. And it gives a benefit to the players who've, both sides, the larger players who weren't using the size effectively and the smaller players who were scared to initiate contact. It seems to be more of a universal skill, whereas those linear crossovers seem to really benefit the kids who are already a little bit more comfortable with their edge work.
Kim, I've got a question. You posted on Instagram or Facebook a one-on-one drill where you were near the boards, but in the middle of the ice, and two young players were making contact, sort of battling for a puck. I wonder if you could pull that video up, because it's the essence of keeping your balance, having your skates under you, and doing whatever game skating needs to be done to be successful in the drill. Do you remember that? You're muted, Kim.
Sorry, my twin has joined us. Say hi, Sasha. She's a very good skater, Wally. You'd be very impressed with her outside edges. Yeah. She's a much better skater than her mommy, but that's a pretty low bar. Wally, I have a lot of the drills. So are they stationary? Are they skating? What are they doing? Sorry, I don't mean to
There's a puck involved, and they bumped into each other battling for the puck. And at some point, I think they had to get the puck back to you, but it doesn't really matter. It's just that particular link. It was a wild watch to me, because it's a game-like competitive drill where the edge, where your center of gravity has to be under you so you don't fall down. You get comfortable with contact, and you can react and change directions according to what the game is. And that's the essence of a linear crossover, helping you get the balanced leg under your body. It takes a hell of a lot of balance to do that. You master the outside edge, you're more comfortable overall to skate the game the way it's played more often now. It's not a linear game now. It's becoming all directions for sure. So if you recall any of that, fine, let us know. But Sammy, I'm curious here, linear crossovers. What about goalies? Your sound is off, Sammy.
There we go. This has been fascinating because I play a lot of rec hockey now. So now I'm trying to learn it from my perspective. Makes me want to go to Kim's camp and just learn it all. But yeah, it is irrelevant to goaltending. It doesn't have anything to do with it. But what I do find is that when I play women's rec hockey, if I could just skate backwards the entire game, I would dominate. I mean, I'm so strong at linear backwards skating as a goalie. But the game of women's rec doesn't really warrant that. But goalies tend to, what I find really easy, Tim, when you talk about being able to cover a lot of ice without crossing over, that is, that's what we do as goaltenders, that edge work. So that backwards, being able to cross over, having that balance, the drill that what would be called scissoring, very, very easy for a goaltender to master. But forwards crossovers is not as easy. So that's certainly something that balance going forwards is not easy for me to manipulate. But what I love about me learning the game at the same time that I am teaching it to younger athletes is that, as opposed to Kim, who just understands it, and she's really broken it down. I really have to manipulate my body to think, how could I do it and then teach it as well? I mean, you guys have all done that, but the forward skating is fascinating for me because it's, I take exactly what you guys say. Have a game later today. I'm for sure going to just warm up along the blue line doing those little crossovers. So thank you, Kim. Oh, Wally's on mute now.
Al, I'm curious about your thoughts because you're at that level of working with young kids and experimenting with things. Any thoughts on what's been said?
Well, I had to drop there for a quick minute, Wally, for a work thing, but no, just in general with the crossovers, I think it's part of its habit. I think, right? Like the more we can get kids used to doing it. I mean, obviously there's building up the skill, but there's also ingraining it as a habit. Like when I get the puck, I'm not going to skate in a straight line with it. And I think that's where the big benefit of teaching them from when they're really young, even if they're not perfected the crossover yet, of getting into the idea of how to use the crossover, right? Like the drill work that Kim was showing about them, trying to beat the defender with the crossover. Like there's all kinds of little games that you can play and incorporate it to get them in that mindset of, I'm not just going to take the puck and go as fast as I can and try to go to the outside every time. I'm going to try and use this to beat the guy ahead of me. Because I noticed, like, as you get older, it gets harder and harder to ingrain that kind of stuff, right? Like for like what you were saying, Sammy Joe. I mean, for me to go out and do that, like I'm a very straight line skater. Like if I play men's league, even though I know all this and I do all the linear crossovers and do all the demonstrations and stuff like that, if it's a men's league game, I'm still probably going to try and beat the guy to the outside and skate in a straight line because that's the way I was taught and that's the way that we that I did it, right? It's ingrained. So when I see my son, when he grabs the puck and goes out in the game, like he never, like very rarely skates in a straight line with it, unless he's like on a breakaway or something like that. He gets it and he just automatically starts to move, which I think is partly because he started doing it when he was, 6, 7 years old.
Kim.
Wally, I found your drills.
Okay.
Well, I have a couple, but I realized when we're talking about initiating contact, how important the outside edge is, right? Like if you can't lean on your outside edge and lean into a defender, if you're not comfortable on your outside edge, you're not going to initiate contact either. So we'll go back to screen share. And this one, I think I've had more likes on this than any other thing I've ever posted. And it's maybe one of the simplest drills I ever came up with. So these are all bantam and midget players. And you can see with them, especially the kid in the orange, you can tell she comes to all my camps, like how much she's leaning in here, right? And this is like such a foundational drill for us. They do it without the puck. They do it just dribbling the puck, right? So can they do this, right? And it took me a while to get to this progression, but they're so comfortable. They don't have to worry about leaning against someone else. They're leaning against the wall. It's not going to move. And then we add scanning and awareness. So my instructors are holding up fingers that they call out. This is even pretty challenging for most of our U15 and U18. And it really falls apart quickly with the younger players. They just don't have the ability to do 3 things at once, right? Legs, hands, eyes. Like they can do 1, they can do 2, but they can't do all 3. This is on turbo for you, Wally. This other one. So here's just leaning into your partner and dribbling, initiating contact. This is on fast forward. These kids aren't that fast. That's the drill I think you're talking about, where they spin off each other and then battle for position. That's a favorite. They like anything where the instructors hit them with the hitting pad, of course. So again, this is all, like, I would argue this is outside edge work. It is initiating contact, but if they can't be on their outside edge, they can't really do any of these drills. They're skating through the stick. There's some inside edge. Anyways, these kids aren't really that fast in real life, but initiating contact, because it's all pretty simple stuff, I guess. But this one is really where the rubber meets the road. We do this with the 5-year-olds, and they get good at it, and then they can do it right away. So, you know, I like anything that has that instant transfer over. But then you add the partner in that they lean against. So when you saw the turbo version, they would lean against their partner and dribble the puck. And just getting comfortable with being like pants to pants with the lee side kids, stripes to stripes here. And that, like I said, it is foreign concept to our players. Like they're not comfortable. Like they have no idea what I'm talking about when we start it. So yeah, hopefully we're not taking too many penalties and changing the game, at least the way the girls.
Kim, we lost your sound.
Sorry, I was just turning off my sharing.
Kim, I have a question, and this is a question about coaching. What you've done in that video, it was deliberate practice. No decision making, just deliberate practice, and it was progressive. And you went without a puck, with a puck, then calling numbers, 3 things. And then when you went down the blue lines deliberately, you were still practicing. And that to me is an art of coaching in teaching, that coaches, you're a skills expert, and not many of us could do what you're doing. I'm just curious about how much of what you do you think some of your coaches could pick up on, or do they rely on you to do all that deliberate practice and they do game-like practice?
I mean, I share all those. I walk our coaches through that. I have practice plans and drill videos for all of it. And I think I've said before, some of them have taught it without me being there, building the wall, initiating contact, building an escape route, blah, 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 blah. Like they've taught it without me, and I can see their players able to do it. I think there's the deliberate side of it, and there's the game application, right? So if you see that drill where they're driving around the circle, or we're pinning against the wall, right? Can we get the girls to the point where they can read where the pressure is, right? So the real magic of it is not, can you initiate contact, but when you initiate contact, can you identify where is that player and how do I manipulate the game now that I know where she is, right? So I posted one way back about, I think it was Melody Dow doing it against Finland, and she gets pinned against the wall, but you never get pinned fully from one side. And so she's able to spin off contact, right? And I think that's, once you get the deliberate down, infusing that idea of, okay, how are you using this contact to read the play, right? And that's what I always tell players. My demo for the players and the coaches is if I put my hand on a player and I close my eyes and I say, how do I know where this player is? I know where she is. Well, you're touching her, right? What a lot of players do is I call it like dance moves, right? They get within a stick length of the player and then they're doing this and doing crossover this way, and they don't actually touch the player. And they think they're doing a great job of protecting the puck, but they're actually making it really hard on themselves. If they just put their butt on the girl's hands or backed into the player. They wouldn't have to look over their shoulder at all. They might have to look for a stick blade. But you can feel the side the player is pushing you on, just go the other way. It's not rocket science, right? But that's where we would take that and immediately say, okay, this is why you're doing this. And they know that right when they're leaning into the wall. That first drill where they lean the wall, we're telling them this is so you can get information about where that player is, because she's not going to be like the wall pushing you evenly. You're going to have to spin one way or the other. That's hard for them to learn or to apply, but you can see them trying to do it. That's the hard part, right? Is that taking that from deliberate. The coaches can teach the deliberate if I give it to them. I spoon feed it to them. Can they then apply that in a more game-like drill? Yes. Can they then on the bench say to that player, okay, which side was she pinning you on, or where was the pressure? You know, why did you decide to turn left instead of right? I'm not sure that they're all comfortable doing that piece of it, right? Like that more Socratic asking the question. But the girls have the skill set to understand how to initiate contact and what that contact means for them to manipulate the game.
Kim, I want to share something that Dave King did years ago. Just 2 words. What you're teaching those kids, his teaching point was soft shoulder. You feel the pressure on one side, the other one shoulder doesn't have pressure. You turn away from pressure. And you got to feel it, not just see it. There's a point where in puck protection, you have to feel the person pressuring you to maintain it. And when the pressure isn't, that's the side you go to. So his teaching point was soft shoulder for the forward along the boards to turn the other way. I was doing an HP1 presentation in Saskatchewan, and watching another coach from Phoenix, the skills coach, was doing an offensive presentation on play along the wall. And I thought he had never heard of the principle of soft shoulder. And that was the visual cue that Dave gave, just like toe cap square to maintain D side. It made a big difference in getting a picture, the understanding of feeling where they are. So I just wanted to throw that in because not many coaches can do the deliberate teaching, I find. So if they learn to play small area competitive games, they'll get more reps. And without teaching, the kids will have fun and figure things out to the best of their ability. And getting your coaches to be able to teach some of the skills and provide feedback at timely moments is what's going to make it pay off more. So well done, Kim. I really enjoyed that. So Tim, do you have anything else to add? I've worked with you and you've done some teaching progression stuff that was amazing. And I remember the point shooting example where you dropped the stick and the shooter had to read that and change the shooting goal a little farther. But players have to progressively go through that at a learning stage for sure.
Yeah, the deliberate practice is pretty important when you're trying to learn a skill to develop some confidence to do it. So totally agree with that approach, to do some deliberate stuff and obviously then progress into, as Kim showed, progress into some sort of soft resistance, then sort of more game-like situations. A very effective way of doing it. Absolutely.
Wally, I'm going to share more drills.
Okay, go ahead.
We're having fun today. Okay, deliberate. So pinning on the wall and then skating through the hands. So that's just a combo of a couple drills that we would do. So this would be, just more to get lots of reps in, but eventually we'd pin more on one side than the other. So this player could read which side to spin to. And then there's a drill that just puts it into game application. So she pushes her off the wall In this drill, she couldn't attack till I said go a second time. So she is using the soft shoulder here to turn away. Makes that D look pretty silly. They're about 4 years apart, these two. So they just start out of a pin. I do a lot more drills starting out of a pin. Then they do the dance moves. And then she's got to initiate contact at some point here to get around the player. So it's a nice drill. You could set up like 6 to 8 stations of it really, really easily. It's a kind of more of a hockey camp type of format. But you could see, I tell a lot of our coaches, right, you could easily have 2 stations of this at one end, working on one-on-ones while you're working on some kind of breakout or system stuff at the other end. And I think that's where I see a lot of like development opportunities missed, where you see too many kids standing around when everybody's trying to work on a system. And if you could have a drill like that running out of the other end, to just get the reps in. And again, that's not, I mean, it would still be a little deliberate because we force them to start out of a pin. We force them to read a little bit, and the girls love those drills. Like, it's so outside their box. They just haven't done stuff like that quite a bit. And so once they really have fun with it, and it's, I don't know, it's been good for me